A question came up just moments ago that is actually a good precursor for the chapter itself. And it was simply enough, how do we practice karma yoga in daily life? And on the one hand, it's really simple. But on the other hand, it takes quite a bit of focus and can seem to be quite challenging. Okay? So, again, the basic principles of karma yoga are simply that you understand that there's a universal order operating. As we analyze every aspect of the creation, we see that there's an intelligent design underlying it. Everything has an order to it. Science can pick this apart and discover, the systems involved and all of that. And then we see in any operation, there's this cause and effect, inviolable cause and effect process that takes place, or operation that takes place. And so then, it can't be, as we've said, that some parts of the apparent reality or manifest universe are ordered, and then some parts are just random and chaotic. That makes no sense. And so we can rest assured that there is a universal order, and that it is self-sustaining. We've talked before about the essential nature when we analyze it, comes down to three irreducible aspects that I would say go hand in hand, except they're not parts. They're not separate aspects. They're not separate parts. They're just these aspects, each of which can't be reduced any further, which is simply limitless conscious existence. It's self-evident that we're existent, and we wouldn't know we were existing unless we were conscious of it. Okay? And anything that is claimed as existent can only be claimed to be so because there's an awareness of it. Even those things that we are not aware of as of yet must exist within a pool of pure potentiality. There must be consciousness underlying them. Assuming that they would be discoverable, they can only be discovered within a field of consciousness. And if that field of consciousness contains each and every modification possible within it, then itself must be limitless. It itself, it's not actually an it, but that consciousness must be limitless. So we come down to the fact that our essential nature is limitless conscious existence. Now, it doesn't appear as that because Maya throws up this projection of all these myriad objects, and more specifically for us, we've got a body-mind-sense complex. And so we're limited to its scope. Our experience is limited to the scope of that body-mind-sense complex. Because a curious phenomenon, you might say, is happening due to the influence of Maya. Maya being the conditioning agent that exists within awareness, is an aspect of awareness. Again, is not a part or a separate entity from awareness. It is an aspect of awareness itself. And we would say, whereas pure awareness might be, for the purposes of understanding or analysis, spirit, Maya is the material aspect. Now, it's not necessarily the material like we think of, a tangible material we can pick up and hold and interact with. It moves through the causal realm and the subtle realm and then to the gross realm. where it does become, objectified. Well, it's even objectified in the subtle realm, but as, thoughts, emotions, subtle phenomena, sensations even. What is projected, or part of what is projected within this scope is the jiva, okay? And so now we have the archetypal jiva. We talked about that. Everybody's got basically the same equipment. A human being is a human being, okay? But we have all these little, seemingly independent, individual body, mind, sense complexes. And we might liken these to, again, these are all for the, this is all for the purpose of analysis, like microscopes. So the portion of awareness, limitless awareness, but the portion of awareness that is seeing, although awareness itself doesn't see, I'll talk about that in a moment, but the portion of awareness that is seeing through any particular scope is going to be limited to the purview of that scope. So it's going to experience the seemingly outer surrounding phenomena that scope is able to access. And also inside, it's got a certain vasana bundle or whatever that colors its interpretations, evaluations, creates its inner experience, its emotions, its thoughts. Okay? That's why you don't know everything when you become enlightened, or you know who you are. When you realize your limitless conscious existence, it doesn't mean suddenly you become Ishvara and know everything. Because Ishvara isn't actually an entity. Ishvara is simply the name we give to the macrocosmic collection of all subtle bodies, which we could just as well equate with the causal body. Because all the impressions that are expressing through the entire array of subtle bodies are, again, coming from the pool of pure potentiality that is the causal body. So they're essentially the same thing on that macrocosmic level. Okay, so now, awareness is not a knower. Yes, awareness is termed the witness, awareness is termed the knower in the scriptures even. But again, we have to understand the implied meaning of the word. We're limited by language, so that's the best we can do, but then we need to unfold that further so we have a proper understanding. Awareness is the illumining factor. When it shines on the mind, it enlivens the mind. I mean, it enlivens the whole body-mind-sense complex, but let's take the mind because that's the locus of our experience, basically. So it enlivens the mind and allows it to function. The mind has these various functions within it, and again, we can include memory in here. So the mind collects sense data, integrates it, so it perceives, it integrates, it doubts, wonders, what is this? What should I do with it? Or how should I respond? Okay. Later it emotes. Intellect takes a look at it. It also perceives, because these aren't really separate functions. I mean, they're different functions within awareness, but they're not like separate components, but we break that down for the purposes of analysis. So we could say awareness then perceives as well. It perceives what the mind sends it, if you want to think of it that way. And then it deliberates over what that is. It discriminates It consults the causal body. What should we do? Or even the deep memory, if you want to think of it that way. How have we responded before? Has it been successful? Has it been? So then there's a little bit of free will that seems to be employed there, where we say we can do the same thing we've ever done, or maybe that didn't work out so well. We want to change course. But all that decision-making process happens in the intellect. The intellect decides and then directs, the mind. Okay, activate the active organs and respond this way. That's when the mind emotes, because part of that is the energy and motion, where it's activating the organs, okay, the active organs. We feel that as emotion. Ego steps in, says, I'm doing this, claims responsibility. Memory, of course, stores up impressions, is called upon for consultation purposes. What have we done before? Or just for information, so that we can navigate our way through the apparent reality. Okay? But all this functioning is just the mind working. Awareness isn't doing that. Awareness just illumines it. So I've used this analogy before. This is the coffee maker. In the analogy, although be clear, awareness is not energy, because even energy is an object, a subtle object in awareness. But awareness, for that analogy, would be the electricity. Okay? So then, who's knowing? Because the coffee maker can't make coffee on its own. And electricity sure can't make coffee on its own, but you put the two together and suddenly coffee making happens. So that's where we get doership and knowership. That's the knowing. So it's really strange. It's really, I know it's a weird thing, but that's how it is. So awareness is just the illumining factor, and then the relative knower knows. So when you know the self, it is the mind knowing the self. It's seeing, recognizing. Again, I hesitate to use this word because it's the word intuition, because it's not a hunch based on, the clues at hand or something, but you recognize your true nature. We're going to be getting into that more deeply, how that occurs later today. But you recognize your true nature, or the mind recognizes its true nature. It registers the thought. It may not be these exact words, but it, understands, I am limitless conscious existence. All this appears in me and is actually nothing but me. That's the ultimate step. So, but that doesn't mean awareness needs the mind to know itself. Now, when I say know itself in that sense, awareness doesn't need the mind to be itself. Awareness is. And when we go through all these prakriyas and we go through all of this analysis, it breaks the back of these erroneous notions that we could be anything other than awareness. That's what all this is for. Just to chip away at that conditioning. And we just see through it. It can't be that way. It really appears like it is, no doubt. And it's still going to appear that way even once we know who we are. We're just going to, and then we're going to be able to tune into both channels, so to speak. When we want some entertainment, education, opportunities for service, we can play around in the apparent reality, but when we're looking for security, peace, and happiness, that which is true, eternal, unchanging, then we tune into awareness. Okay? So that's to clarify this idea of awareness being the knower. So it's a really tricky business because, we're so caught up in being a person that, that one of the last things, we say the sex vasana is the last one to go. The last vasana to go is just still this, I'm this knower somehow. Even if I know, well, I'm not the person knowing, we think it's like some big spirit knowing. But it's not even that. Because any knowing is just an object in it. Even the process of knowing itself, as we've just said, it's just a function of the mind. But, on the other hand, that's as close as the jiva can get. And we talk about jivan mukti, right? We are a person, and while we have said moksha, freedom, is freedom from the jiva, not for the jiva, there's also another aspect that freedom is for the jiva because it's for the mind. It's only the mind that has the problem. It's only the mind that causes us suffering, or suffers, you could say, produces the effect of suffering. So in that sense, so again, it's one of those, it's not either or, it's and two or whatever, Okay? Both and. Okay? You got to be able to assimilate both aspects of that, what that means. Okay, so then, given the fact that, okay, we understand who we are, or at least, okay, it's been laid out, and we have access to that, we can continue immersing ourselves in the teachings and, until we fully assimilate that. But even once we have assimilated it, and certainly before we've assimilated it, we do have this apparent reality to deal with, to navigate our way through, and this apparent jiva, whose mind we have to purify. If we want moksha, that's the game, that's the way it's played. To use an analogy. So, with that in mind, then, the fundamental spiritual practice is karma yoga. All right? And we said karma yoga is not a specific practice like devotional worship. You go to a temple or you've got a deity installed in your own home, and you can make offerings, fruits and flowers, and burn incense. And, there's all these devotional practices. Beautiful, wonderful, great, do them. But those are like formal devotional worship, okay? Then there's formal sitting meditation. That's a great practice, Cultivating that pure mind, turning within, allowing yourself a platform for inquiry. As we said, meditation's not about turning off the mind, but perhaps calming the waters a bit, and then using it as a platform for discrimination. When those, we're not so distracted by all the worldly events because now we're sitting. We've withdrawn from that aspect, but now we're in our mind and we can watch the emotions arise, we can watch the thoughts arise, and we can discriminate. Oh, that's not me. It's a pretty simple discrimination because anything that comes up is not you. Which, kind of silly as that may sound, brings us back to that idea that we always think, or I'm speaking from personal experience, maybe none of you relate to this, you just, popped into this, but there's still this subtle idea like, I know I'm not the thought, I'm not that thought, I'm not that emotion, even the sensation, the knees are aching, I'm not that. But I still keep trying to glimpse what I am, if that makes sense. I'll get to the state of what I am. But it's not a state. It's not, it's this is where this final step just becomes so subtle. It's, that part, it's like everything else just points to it. But it's finally like they say about that analogy with or that little anecdote about the birds, Can I fly? Can I fly? I can't fly. I can't fly. And then mom just kicks the thing out of the nest, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm flying, okay? Because there is just that final leap is just, we've used every tool in the box to convince the mind of its true nature, and I totally buy into it. Not because I believe the notion, it's some concept I'm believing, but because I've stripped away everything and I see what I am, but still there's that, it's going to be something somehow.
Is there a vasana to it?
Well, I think it's the ego. It's not actually a vasana. It's just the ego. It's that last thought in the intellect that I'm something.
Right.
I know I'm not the person. I mean, it's even, beyond that. It's like, okay, I get that. And I know I'm not Ishwara, but I'm something still. And
it's the ego's job to generate that thought.
Yeah. So, and really what it comes to is just being okay with it. Like it's never going to go. So there comes a point where when you see what it really is, who cares if it goes or not? If I'm playing with clay and I'm shaping it into a dinosaur and then a cowboy and then a soccer player and then, whatever, then do I need any of them actually to change or not, be? Do I need to it has to be just clay? Then once I know what everything is, it doesn't really matter what comes or goes, what form it takes. I mean, again, it's kind of tricky business because we need to calm the mind sufficiently to catch that glimpse, the akandakara vritti. But then once we've recognized it, it doesn't matter after that. We said there's the cloud cover in the sky, kind of like today, right? They're almost so, we can't see the sky at all. We just see the cloud cover. It's so thick. But if we remove enough of the clouds, not every single one, but we remove enough so that we see, oh my gosh, it's limitless. Then after that, the clouds can roll in, tornadoes and hurricanes and etc. And we just say, but this is awareness. We know. We don't doubt our true nature anymore. That's what I meant yesterday when I said, and then nobody can convince you otherwise. You'll never doubt again, even if the mind comes up with the thought, hey, wait a minute, look at it, it's all... No, you know.
So you can't remove the remover.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because the remover is, the remover is not going to remove itself. Where's it going to remove it to?
It's that story Ramana had where somebody was dug a hole to the shadow.
Yeah, right.
The more earth he was put in, the shadow was always on top, of course.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Okay, so then, okay, we're back to the practical matter of all of that to get back to this question. Well, then how do we practice karma yoga in our daily life? Because karma yoga, again, is not going to give us moksha, but it's going to purify the mind. So if we're not already grasping this entirely, and we're not standing with hard and fast conviction, which again, let me reiterate, is not like hard and fast conviction because I believe it and I think this is a sound theory and I'm not giving it up. It's you've stripped away everything. You're not holding on to any theory. You've stripped away all the falsehoods. And so you stand with conviction in what is. Because you've just seen what is. We've stripped away the clouds, we see the sky. I don't have to believe in the sky. Okay? All right, so then karma yoga. Well, it's the fundamental spiritual practice. It's this attitude that you take. It's not, as I said, I started to get off on the devotional worship can take a certain form in a certain place at a certain time. Same with sitting meditation. Meditation can also be a 24/7 endeavor where you're ruminating on the teachings, contemplating all that. But sitting meditation is formal, okay? But karma yoga is a 24/7 deal. I mean, maybe you're not conscious of it when you're sleeping, so we'll say what? 18/7 deal. All right? But everything, even before you fall asleep, you say, I'm offering this sleep to you, Lord. Okay? So you can think of the universal order in personified terms as Ishwara, Bhagwan, God the Creator, whatever works for you. Or you can think of it as simply as the universal order. If you have the disposition that allows you to just relate to that abstract phenomenon, you might say, then that's fine. But karma yoga is contingent on understanding that there's a universal order. And again, not just theorizing about it and believing it. I mean, at first you might have to extend it, some modicum of faith until, analysis, pending the results of your analysis. But when you see that everything does have an intelligent design underlying it, I mean, we can take a rock, we can take an atom, we can see how it works. There's a logical order to it. And then we see everything, every cause has its effect, and every effect creates another cause and effect, and on it goes. Then we start to understand, okay, there's a universal order. Since its essential nature is limitless conscious existence, and there can't be non-existence, it actually is self-sustaining. But we also see that even just in a more practical sense. I mean, because you could say, well, there is the pralaya, okay, the cosmic dissolution. We'll take Scripture's word for that. But even then, awareness doesn't go kaput. Everything just goes dormant for a time, comes back into being. But even on a practical level, we see that everything compensates for any kind of like aberration. I guess on the highest level you'd say, well, there's no aberrations, but things that sort of work against the functioning of the machine that are adharmic at some level, whether they be violating physical laws, psychological laws, ethical laws, those things that cause friction, the system is able to absorb those things, and adjust. Okay? And you just see this across the board. Nature has all these strange phenomena that show the interdependence of the whole and how it sustains itself, corrects itself. Okay? So that being the case then, you realize, okay, everything, it plays a role in any given action, so I can't be the one who's responsible for the results. I have a sliver of influence, but as we've said about the entire field needs to be, every aspect of it needs to be functioning or present for any action and result to occur. So you can't be the doer in that sense. Okay? So it alleviates that sense of personal, individual responsibility. And what that does is cultivates this attitude of offering. Because you see, well, the field's sustaining me, and it's only natural to feel, well, I have a duty to the field. Okay? So I give back to the field. In fact, Krishna talks about that, that everything is sustained by the spirit of sacrifice. And that's really what is being said there. Everything makes its contribution and to sustain the whole. So with that attitude then, you offer your actions to the field or to Ishvara, and it should be done very consciously. So now let's take this practically speaking. First thing you do when you wake up in the morning, remind yourself, okay, I'm already there, but I'm entering the field. I'm now going to interact with the field. By virtue of the fact I've opened my eyes, the field's already at work. Okay? But now, maybe what's the very first thing? What kind of an attitude do I want to put into the field? Am I going to be grumpy because the alarm clock rang? Am I going to be happy to face another day? Look at, I've been blessed with another day to do inquiry. I can still try to understand who I am. Or if I know who I am, wow, I get to play in the big playground of life. Okay? So that might be the very first thing. Then what I would do is I would I'd get a brick if I were you. At least a heavy object of some sort. This morning I stopped at Satya's. Well, you saw me. I stopped at Satya's and I bought 2 5-liter jugs of water, that Bisleri water, or Bisleri, or whatever, however you pronounce that. How do you pronounce that?
Bisleri.
Bisleri. Okay, so I bought 5 2-liter jugs of that because I thought, to get through the week or whatever, I got a little bit left in my 10-liter one. But anyway, so I'm carrying the thing home, and oh my God, by the time you get back, I thought it's going to slice right through my fingers and whatnot, but very heavy, so there I'm trudging along, okay? So this is what I'd recommend. Get some heavy object, and then that will serve as a constant reminder that, like, I'm offering this, action to the field. And every time you have to pick that up and lug it around, like I'm going to go put the toast in the toaster, but I got to lug this, so I'm offering this to the field. Because that serves as a good, it's something you can't avoid, right? It's like, I'm kind of joking. Okay.
Sounds like a mental Sisyphus.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but the idea is, I'm just joking, so if you're writing all this down, oh my God, I got to get a brick. That's why we have that stack of bricks around the corner. Little did you know, that's your prasad at the end of the whole thing. You get to bring a brick home, carrying it, and this will be a reminder. No, but do whatever you need to do. I mean, silly as it may sound, post a note above your bed, do karma yoga, or, I don't know, get a tattoo, probably not a real tattoo, but, we can play. Wristwatch, now you can set a little timer so it goes off once every hour. Well, remembering once every hour is better than never remembering, But, and you just have to work at it, incrementally. Just keep reminding yourself. Carry a scripture around. You can find a technique that works for you, but it just kind of takes effort. What's going to help me remember this? And it doesn't mean that has to be, again, your only thought. It's just before every action, get in the habit of just inside your mind, I'm offering this to the field. I'm giving this over to the field. Okay? And again, remember, your intention is important. It's part of the field. So whatever desire comes up, think of it in terms of dharma. And is it just a binding vasana? Or is this something that seems reasonable? It accords with dharma? It's your advice to Ishvara. Here's what I think would be a good thing. And it can include your own satisfaction and your own pleasure. But, okay, I think this will work well for the field. And then you'll notice that hand in hand with that will come this attitude of, okay, as I'm offering it over, obviously I can't be in control of how this plays out. It's out of my hands now. So I've put forth my best intention. I've tried to act in an appropriate and timely manner. And now it's in Ishvara's hands. It's in the field's hands. And at first it takes some getting used to, because those binding vasanas are owly devils. They want to, they want their way. Okay? So they're going to demand things be their way, and it's going to be a little bit difficult perhaps. But over time you'll see, okay, gosh, when I just let Ishvara make my decisions or run my life, it always seems to work out for the better, And measure it against the times when you get what you want. I mean, where, you might have had to force the issue. And then see which works out better. And then you'll fast become convinced that Ishvara does your life much better than, you do. Okay? Yes, sir.
The sense of doership that's, I guess we describe that as the ego.
Yes.
It's negated by knowledge.
Yes.
But when it has been negated by knowledge, the sense of doership still kind of rise.
Mm-hmm.
the shit that is known to be illusory.
Yes.
So could it be said to still have a function that it generates certain emotions that are useful to action?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, right on. Definitely. Yeah, the sense of doership we don't want to eradicate. It's doership and ego, same thing, right? Because I'm a doer. I'm the ego. I'm a separate entity doing this. Okay? But yeah, great point. We're not eradicating it, we're just negating it. But it's a useful tool. It's part of the instrument. See, the thing is that we don't, we're not endowed with this because they're, these are bad things. We're not just given a problem to work with. We make the problem out of it, so to speak. Okay, or the problem arises, But the machine can function in a way that causes friction, or the machine can function in a way that accords with the natural flow. So, okay, the proper use of the ego is simply to say, okay, well, I seem to be this individual entity within the apparent reality. I will function as such and make my, contribution. I'm going to have certain feelings that are alarm bells that say, do this, don't do that, be cautious about this. This is something that, this is kind of a sad thing. So maybe we could try to prevent that in the future, or just this is how we process the transition, the change, helps us cushion the blow a bit, So then it just becomes something that you use to navigate, but you're not hanging your hat on it, saying this is me, and all of its little fluctuations, and I'm personally responsible for everything. So yeah. Okay, so having offered the actions to the field and knowing that the field's going to take care of itself, which means it's going to take care of you because you're part of the field, then you can accept whatever does result as prasad. Okay? And it helps to also appreciate the fact that, if you really do analyze everything, you can't call anything yours. I mean, if you want some justification for that acceptance, you might say, wow, look at how I've been taken care of. I've been given this instrument with which to function. I've been given this, amazing playground to navigate in. So all of everything that we have has been given to us. We are not responsible for any of that. So that also helps us be appreciative. So we have an attitude of gratitude. So then, having done our best to offer our actions to the field consciously before we act, we also want to accept the results. And this is what the 18th chapter is going to get into, if it should be the case that you forget to offer your actions to the field, then at least, and you may recall this earlier verse, I think we dealt with either yesterday or the day before, even if you forget to offer your actions to the field, at least when the results come, armed with this understanding now, you can accept those results as prasad. Okay? And you can see, everything's being taken care of. All right? So that's how to practically implement. So it does. It just requires, it's very simple on the one hand, but it requires constant vigilance. So you just remind yourself before you do every action. And it's pretty continuous because we're like continuously involved in action, right? I mean, it could get, we don't want to be fanatical, and it doesn't get to the point where like, I'm offering this action to Israel, in this action, in this action, in this action. It's, okay, it's not, obviously not that. But, okay, so we're going to have class before class begins, Let's offer this to Ishwara, which is why we do the chant. Okay? And then, any time within it, okay, you can offer things as well. But then, okay, we're going to take a break. I'm going to go get some chai. I'm going to give Ishwara some chai. I offer this chai to you, Ishwara. So that type of thing. Okay? And then you just work from there and you'll see. It just gets easier and easier. At first, it's always a challenge. For everyone, it's a challenge. This doesn't come easy to anyone. So if you're not getting the hang of it, rest assured that you're in good company. Okay, because the greatest saints, the great siddhas of yore, we're dealing with the same thing. That's why we got the scriptures, right? That's why Krishna's teaching karma yoga. It's because this is the way.